Hello YouTube. Today I wanted to show you something that I found quite unexpectedly. The backstory is that I was looking for, hold on here, I was looking for a pneumatic shutter that I could use in a camera I'm working on that's going to utilize a mechanical shutter and also the handheld flash powder flash gun, which I've been also working on, and that is this here. And while I'm making progress, it's still in need of a lot of refinement. But I want to focus on the shutter here today. I bought this on eBay for 10 bucks. It looked a little hokey. It appeared to be similar to one of those old Packard Ideal pneumatic shutters, and I'm going to show you here in a minute what I found. This is going to be a little shaky. I'm doing this both handheld and off the tripod with my marginally reliable digital camera. But what is interesting about this, and probably the only thing that's interesting about this, is when I got it, I assumed that it was a factory-built shutter. Turns out this is not. This is a 100% completely hand-made, hand-built shutter assembly. And see if I can show you. Well, that fell off. I've got most of the bells and whistles taken off this thing. This thing came with a whole bunch of doodads and thingies connected to it. It had a big old faceplate on it. It had a wood spacer. But what this thing does, like any other pneumatic shutter, is it opens and closes the leaves. That's on this shutter, and I'm gonna one-handed put this thing back together. And then you work this one, which is supposed to be the timed shutter release, and that also opens the shutter and closes it. First thing I noticed was that it would about take an air compressor to operate these pneumatic pistons. But I'm going to set this on a tripod and start showing you what is so cool about this. Okay, so here we go. So I just took the pneumatic pistons off of this shutter. I wanted to show you these first. This is the pneumatic piston. It's got its air inlet. There's a connecting rod. Now, this entire thing is made by hand. Now you look at this thing, I don't know how your resolution is going to be on your end, but you look at the piston, and that thing is carved out of a piece of aluminum. The piston is an aluminum plug milled out to take the connecting rod, pushed or pressed into a brass sleeve, and you can see machining marks where it was turned down to the right size to fit into this piece of brass pipe, I guess. And that is about as perfect of a fit as you are ever going to get. It's beautiful. I cleaned it up. It does work a little bit better now. And the other one is the same thing. Handmade, hand-turned, hand-carved. This whole thing is just pieced together by hand. Now we can get down to the shutter itself. I'm going to try and zoom in on this a little bit. And my zoom's not going to work. That's alright. Alright, so I undid the corner screws. I'm going to lift this thing off of here. And I'm not going to touch the shutter leaves, which are handmade, hand cut, hand drilled. All the little holes, all the little slots are done by hand. It's obvious. This here is the actual mechanism. It's got this is the basic open and close lever. This lever here is the one that is supposed to be for timed exposure, and I think this, in the listing it said 1/60th of a second. I'm not so sure about that, but that too is not the point. Now I want to remove these 4 screws. I've already had this thing apart a couple of times. Initially I thought I had just gotten a bad shutter, A little disappointed, but you know, it's eBay, so you take kind of what you get. But having looked at this thing, I'm really not disappointed anymore. I'm not sure if I can use it yet. I may be able to. I may not be able to. We're going to find out. I take off that inner ring. And you look at this thing. Now, if you can see it up close like I can, I know a thing or two about machine work and lathe work and stuff like that. I do a lot of it at work. This is handmade. Somebody took the time to turn this by hand. This is the outer ring. These are the pins that correspond to the slots in the leaves, and you remove that and you can see that this too is hand turned. It's been touched up by hand in a few rough spots. It's covered with machine marks, but not bad. It's not terrible. And here's all the cool stuff. There is the basic open and shut lever, cut by hand. This lever here, which is supposed to set your shutter release, is also made by hand. These are my marks for alignment. And this is the actual release mechanism. Now when you get this thing set, there was a knob on the outside that you turned, and it would push this arm in closer. And what was supposed to happen is, when you actuate the air cylinder on that side, this arm, which stretches all the way around to the same pivot point, is supposed to come up. It presses the two release levers together, and at a certain point it's supposed to let them go. Now without the ring on it, it's not going to work anyhow. It's a little fluky the way it works. I might be able to improve it. I don't know yet. I'm going to try. But it's just incredible. I mean, whoever made this thing, I hope you can see this because it's really cool. Whoever made this put a lot of time into handcrafting each and every part so that they work together, they fit together. It's just amazing the amount of work someone put into this. I don't know who made it. I contacted the seller and they had no idea. Some guy out in Michigan, and this was they did flea markets, and he said that they had box lots of this stuff and they just sold it off as they went along. I'm just impressed that somebody, for reasons on even the case that the leaves sit into, that's all made by hand. That's 5 pieces of aluminum screwed together, drilled and tapped. Just amazing. And there's the other side, and you can see all of this stuff. It's just amazing. I'm wondering if it was some engineering student's project, because it's amazing. You look at that stuff. It would be, on a good day, it would be difficult to do this. I'm expecting that this is a copy of a Packard shutter. I really don't know. Bottom line here is I was just super impressed with the amount of time and trouble somebody went to make a shutter by hand. Everything, every piece of this has been milled by hand. This is this would have gone right here. Actually, it would have been this way, and it has graduations on it, presumably for aperture size, to limit the size that the opening that the blades would create when it was actuated. And this was the cam that rode against this lever, this small lever here, and pushed that big, long, sweeping arm that is sprung. And you know, I have no real insight into this. I'm not This video really isn't about teaching anybody anything or showing anyone a trick. It's just cool. You know, whoever did this really gave a shit and really tried to watch these parts fit together and do what they do. It's just amazing. It doesn't work very well. I'm hoping that I can make it work a little bit better, a little bit snappier. It doesn't work the way other shutters work. I've taken apart a lot of shutters. I'm not real familiar with the Packards. In this case, if you were to squeeze the air bulb, all it would do is push on the piston, and it would do whatever it does. It doesn't set the shutter. It's not a quick snap, open and closed. Basically, you squeeze the bulb, the shutter opens, and there it stays. And like I said, on this side, you squeeze the bulb, the shutter opens, and as it pushes that arm up to open the blades, it's supposed to push against this point here, and at some point trip and release the blades, so they will kind of snap shut. It's a little tricky, a little off. It gets up here and it doesn't really work well. It works pretty good down here, which would be a smaller opening, but when you get up to closer to the full size opening, it hangs up and you actually have to open it all the way and then start to release it, and then it'll trip. And really, that's all I've got for you today. I just wanted to show you that because it is so cool, and somebody put so much effort into it. Even the holes, they're countersunk, they're drilled. Okay, so this thing stopped recording on me again, so I'm going to go through the last little bit here. I was saying that the holes are countersunk, they're drilled neatly, there's no ragged edges, you know, everything is smooth, it's been polished, sort of. The pins are pressed into the openings. It's just beautifully made. And if I set this thing back down, as long as I haven't jarred it, if I set this thing back down, okay, I think I got to realign this thing. I may have moved it a little too much. In any event, I showed you the function in the beginning, and I'll straighten this out later. I was just super impressed. I mean, this is impressive. You can even see there's a couple points where mistakes were made and corrected, where the center points were divoted. On the cam, you can see where the milling machine, the tooling mark, you can see it where it was eating across the aluminum, taking off a little bit at a time with each pass to create a nice, almost like a snail shell shape, and it's beautifully done. This hole is drilled and tapped. It's just awesome. And this, more pressed pins. This one's anchored, nut and bolt, but the stud itself is pressed in. It's a work of art, really. I don't know if it was a professional machinist who made this. I'm not thinking so, but I just wanted to share that with you because it's an amazing piece of work, and whoever did it should be proud of themselves for having done it, and it's just great. And that's all I wanted to show you for today. So until next time. One last thing. Also, I've just reassembled the basic lens, or the basic shutter mechanism here. This thing, along with the stay open, it's got I don't know what you call it, a cog on the bottom air cylinder. When that is inflated, it'll hold open the shutter, and then presumably when the bulb is released, it'll create a vacuum and then close the shutter. That may be for me the most useful portion, but I think that and there's a stud here that this lever pushes against until it gets to a certain point, and then like a cam, it holds it until reverse pressure is applied, then it snaps closed by way of this spring here. Oops, I'm off camera. Just wanted to show you that too. It's just amazing the effort that went into this. Again, until next